Hello and welcome to this very exciting and interesting project, which is a GUI or graphical user interface or app using Python. So we are going to save the information of people like first name, last name, and others into a CSV file. So we can enter the information here. We press on save, it will be saved into a CSV file. And if we want to retrieve some information by last name, we can simply search for it. So if I search for Doe, which is the last name of this person here, if I press search, you can see I have first, last, phone number, email, and address here. And you can see the information is right there. So I can also insert some information. For example, I can say someone called, I don't know, Rick, like Rick Gray, and this is going to be like his phone number, rickgray@g.com, and the street is going to be, I don't know, 23 Gray Street, something like that. If I press save, you can see it is saved inside the CSV and the fields are clear. And if I close the CSV and open it again, you will see that information is entered there. And I can also actually make sure that we have it by searching for it, and you can see Rick Gray and the information is here. So this is what we're going to make, and I'm going to use PySimpleGUI as the Python framework to do this. So let's get to the documentation on PySimpleGUI. You can go to pysimplegui.org for more information. The creator of PySimpleGUI has also a very nice course on Udemy for less than $20. It's an amazing course, a lot of projects there. So we are going to use PySimpleGUI to create that app. And to start, I've made several other PySimpleGUI projects before. You can find them on my channel. Something like a dictionary, an English dictionary, a weather app, and some others. Now, I'm going to talk about the basics of PySimpleGUI using the information here for a couple of minutes. So bear with me while I describe these things. And then I will go to my code editor or IDE, which is PyCharm, and I will start coding. So for a couple of minutes, I'm going to give you a general overview of what PySimpleGUI is and how it works. So first of all, we need to install PySimpleGUI by pip install PySimpleGUI in our terminal. Then we need to import it as uppercase P, S, and GUI. As SG, this is just a nickname, an alias, to refer to it later instead of referring to this long word. So there are several steps we can take to start an app in PySimpleGUI. This one is optional. You can just choose a theme for your app, and the theme gives special color to your fields or buttons. So for example, this is here dark amber, and you can see this is the kind of colors that you will see for this theme, which is different from mine. You can see it's different. And you will find a list of these themes if you just Google PySimpleGUI themes. Next step is creating a layout. So you are going to define how your app will look like. In PySimpleGUI, the layout should be inside a list, a Python list. And inside the Python list, every row, like this is one row, this is second row, this is third row, every row should be inside another list. For example, here we have only one element, which is some text. You can see to create that we have a list. You can see it here, sg.text, and this is the content. So this is how you create some text by sg.text, and sg is PySimpleGUI. On the second row, you can see we have some text and we have an input field, and you can see it here again inside one list we have both text, comma, and the input text. And on the last row, we have two buttons, which are called OK and Cancel. You can see them here. Now, still you won't see this. We need to create the window. So we have just planned the layout, that's it. But now we need to create the window. You can call it whatever, by convention we call it window equals sg.window with uppercase W. This is how you create a window. And you can give it two arguments, or even more, but for now two arguments. The first one you can give it is a title, and title would appear here on your window, just like for me, I have called it contact book. And then you have the layout that we just planned and defined here. So now we have a window with these characteristics, the title and the layout. Now to be able to use this window so that it just pops up and you can type in things there and click on stuff, you need to create a loop, which we call an event loop, to process events like clicks and get the values of the inputs. So for example, if someone puts in something like the name here, like John, how do we grab that John? How do we know that the user has pressed OK or cancel or this? These are events, this is a value. So for that we create a while true loop, which is going to run, and this will be always there until it breaks. And we are going to get access to events and values, events comma values, by reading the window. So it gives us a tuple. So now we have access to events and values. So we are saying if the event is equal to sg.winClosed, that is this. If event is this, if the user clicks on this, or the event is equal to cancel. And what is cancel? The name of the button. You see, this is exactly this. If the event is equal to cancel, break out of the loop and close the window. You need to include this as well at the end. But if not, something else. For example, if someone types in something and presses OK, do something else. For example, press print, you entered, and now values index of 0. How did we get this? So we talked about the events, which are like clicks, for example. How do you get access to what the user inputs, that value? So after you read the window, you got the values, you can say, I want the first value, index 0, the first value the user inputs. So if you have 3 of these inputs, whatever the user inputs in the first one would be values index of 0. The second input would be values index of 1. So that way you have access to whatever the user inputs and you can do things with it. So this is the basics. Now I want to show you my code and I will write it over again. So this is the code. I'm going to explain it first and then I will write it all over again. I have already installed PySimpleGUI by pip installing it in my terminal. Then I have imported it as SG, remember uppercase PSGUI. I've also imported CSV library. You don't need to install it. This is a Python standard library because we are going to use CSV. Then I have set the theme of my app to dark purple. Also for font size, I have put it to Arial 16 because by default it's very small, so I want it to be bigger. So you use sg.setOptions. Now we are setting the layout. That is, we are going to plan the layout inside a list. You see this start of the list, the end of the list. And every row is inside another list. On the first row, we have first name. You can see first name, last name, phone number. And you can also see this push between the input text and the name. We have push. So what it does, sg.push, is to push these fields to the right of the screen, because otherwise, if they're next to each other, this input will start here. Next, start here. This one will start here, so they will not be in the same line. So that's why I'm pushing them to the right of the screen. So you can see all of them, SG text, push, and then there are two buttons here, save and cancel. Then we have another search, push it to the right, and a button search. And then we have this empty list. So if I close this and open it again, you will see it's empty for now. So it is empty, but I need this space to fill it later, to update it later. So how do I do this? How do I get access to these? Remember, I just told you when you read the window, you get access to these values by values index of 0 is this one, and in the values index of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But it is not very functional to have numbers as indexes, not meaningful. So instead of values index of 0, instead of that 0, I can have a meaningful name, like index of first name. That is why we add this key. To this input text, we add a key of first name, fname, for example. You can call it whatever. But this means, from now on, whatever the user inputs here, I can access it by values, square brackets, dash dash fname. And I will have whatever the user inputs for this first name thing. The same for lname, last name, phone, email, address, and search text, whatever the user inputs to search, and search output. This last one here. So I want to know where to put the information, and I have a key for it, so I know where to put that information. When I find the last name, I say, okay, now give me the first name, last name, and all that, and put them here. So this is the logic. Now that we have defined the layout, we need to create the window by window equals sg.window, W capital. I give it a title of contact book, as you just saw. We give it the layout that we defined. And for icon, we say icon equals, and we need to have an image with ICO extension, which is like an icon, as you can see here. Otherwise, by default, it would be a Python icon. Now we need to create our loop to access events and values. So while true, event and values, I'm going to unpack what I can get from reading the window. Window.read, I get access to events, that is clicks, and values, that is the input. So I'm going to put a condition now. If the event that we get is closed, that X, this sign here, if it's this one, or event is equal to cancel, that is this button. Remember, cancel with uppercase C here should be the same. If event is one of these two, break out of the loop and go down, window.close, close the window. Well, otherwise, if it's not the case, continue. Let's see what happens. And grab the value of fname. I remember this fname is the key that I defined for this input text, fname for first name. Grab those values, remember values here, that we got from reading. Grab the values of the first name and save it inside this variable. Do the same with the value of lname, phone, email, and address as well. Once you got all of them, save them in a list inside this variable information, info. Now it's easier to manage because remember, CSV is comma separated values. So we have commas here, right? Separated, and these are values all. So now we have access to what the user inputs as the first name, last name, phone, email, and address. Next step, What if the user presses save, clicks on save here? What should happen then? Okay, when they press save, we need to create a CSV file if there is no CSV file already. So we use with open. So for handling files in Python, I have another video. But if you want to open a CSV file, use the with context manager with open. Inside the parentheses, you put the name that you want. You can call it whatever .csv. So info.csv, and the mode is appending. We are going to add, because we have several modes. We have W, for example, for writing. We have R for reading, and we have A for adding or appending. If you use W for writing, it will delete whatever is there already and create new stuff. But we don't want that. We want to keep the old information. So we just want to add to it. And then we have a new line of nothing. That is, put all this information, these in one line, that is in one row. Then for the next contact, go to the next line and do it the same in one line. So we are going to open the CSV file as W. This is the name we give it. And we're going to say CW, or I don't know, writer, or whatever you can call it, it's okay, is equal to CSV library that we just imported here, dot writer. We are going to use the writer method of the CSV library on W, on this file. And now we have the CW, which is responsible for writing onto this file now. Now that we have CW, we say, okay, now CW, write row, write one row for us in this file. And what should be the content of that row? The info list, this list. So on one row, we would have first name, last name, phone, email, address. This is one cell, one cell, one cell there, one column, one column, one column, one column, one column. So this is what it will do for us. It will write this information on one row. That is the information that it gets from the user. It will print it in a CSV file. If it exists, it just adds to it. If it doesn't exist, it creates it. But what should happen after that? So now, if I do something like I don't know, JJ, for example, Robert, JJ, I don't know, Ricky, and some random number here, ff@g.com, and address FF Street. Now, if I press save, you see, this is cleared. You see, it just got cleared. We don't want the data to be there because we want it to be empty for the next person. That's why we are going to update that area of the first name. So we use window, get the first name space, and update it with nothing, that is with empty string. And this is what happens. So it has been updated with empty strings. Do the same thing. So after, remember, after save has been pressed, this happened. So get the window and the value of the last name in this place and update it with, again, empty string. Do the same with number, email, and address so that we have cleared these fields. So that is how we save it onto a CSV file. Now, what about the next section, which is searching and retrieving that information from the CSV file? So we are grabbing what the user inputs in the search box that is here. So remember, we said that search by last name push input text has the key of search text. So this is the value of this key is going to be what the user wants to know about. So we say, grab the value of that search text and assign it to this variable search text. It's easier to use here. And now if event is equal to search, and search is the name of our button, if someone clicks on the search, then with open this file, CSV file, in the reading mode R, because we are going to only read it now, and we are going to read it as R, or you can call it whatever you want here, doesn't matter. So you're just given a name of this file that you're going to read is now R. So now we are going to use a reader method instead of a writer that we used here. We are going to use csv.reader of R. So we are going to assign this variable as the reader of this file. So CR now refers to all these lines in this file. So now I can say for every line, every row in CR, which is the reader now, for every row in that CR, if the second index of that row, and what is the second index of that row? Remember, this is a row. The first index, index 0, is first name. Index 1, which is the second index, is the last name. We want to check if this the last name the user enters is equal to this last name, that is the second index, index 1 of our row. If they match, I want to grab the index 0 of that line, that row, index 1, index 2, 3, and 4. So if the index 1, which is the last name in our database, in our CSV, matches the search text of the user, we want to display it here, right? Display it here on the search output. And this empty area is called, remember, sg.text key search output. We want to update this area. So I will say, if that is the case, the user's search term equals the second index of the row, which is the last name we have in our CSV, then update the search output area of our window with what? With this information, with index 0 of that row, which is the first name, index 1 of that row, index 2, index 3, and index 4. So to make it a bit more meaningful, that is to say, hey, this is the first name, this is the last name, we can use an F string and then double quotes surrounding it, then first name equals, then inside curly braces, because this is a variable now, we need to put it inside the curly braces. So first name would be the first index of that row. And then we have this \n, which means go to the next line. Do the same with last name, \n, go to next line, go to the next line, and all that. And in the end, again, remember, window.close. Close the window. Otherwise, it might be running in the background and it might cause some trouble. So now let's see, if I press search, nothing has been entered. So it should print first name and all. You see, first name, last name, phone, email address, but it's empty because we don't have any index of 0 yet. It has not been filled. But if I look for someone, like I guess we had Doe, you see now Al Doe, phone number, email, and address. And if I enter the first name, let's just say Vahid, and let's leave it at that, nothing else. If I save, well, maybe last name, because I need to search by last name, Pythonology. And now I'm going to save it. And I'm going to say, look for Pythonology. You can see we have first name, Vahid, last name, Pythonology, and the rest are empty. Now, what you can add to this project is if the user doesn't enter, for example, last name or email, you would send them an error that these are required. Or what if there are two last names, well, same last names, like John Richards and Jack Richards, for example? Would you choose only the second one or the third one? Or you can show both of them maybe? That's also another thing. What if the user puts in like numbers here for the first name? Try to also add validation to it. And you can also broaden this kind of search terms, not just by last name, but maybe also by first name or email or address, something like that. Or maybe part of this, like if they enter Python and if they search, what happens then? Maybe you can just suggest them that this is what you wanted. So if I add actually only pi, this doesn't work. But maybe you can add, okay, did you mean this? So these are the things you can do to improve this app. I hope you liked it. Well, I did myself while I was doing this. So you can see also that there is this CSV file, by the way. Okay, that was it. I hope you liked it, and please don't forget to leave a like or subscribe. Thank you very much for watching and listening.